I have a handful of gay books and I'm not afraid to talk about them. Hello friends, my name is Emily, I'm bi, and here are some books off of my bookshelf. That last part actually isn't true because these are books off of my friends' bookshelves. I thought it would be fun to do a borrowed book TBR, sort of like a library TBR, except that these aren't books that are due back at a very specific time, just kind of in general. So I mostly borrow books from two people. Megan, who is my best friend, she lives in Florida, so we send each other boxes of books periodically. I think I currently have more of her books than she has of mine, but she has a lot of my graphic novels. And then the other person that I borrow books from is Patches over at Patches Paper Cut. She reads a lot of mysteries and thrillers, which is stuff that Megan and I don't really read, so it's nice to have somebody who kind of has a genre outside of either of us that I can borrow from. Patches and I host the Backlist Book Club, and we're reading Wilder Girls by Rory Power for the month of March, so we'll be talking about it at the beginning of April. This is a book that Megan really fucking loved that I think is definitely going to be a 5-star for me. I'm not sure how Patches is going to feel about it, but hopefully good. We'll see. On to the books that I've borrowed. So I'm going to talk about the 5 books of these books that I have borrowed that I have read. 2 of them are from Patches and I've already returned them, but I wanted to kind of briefly mention them, you know? So the 2 books that I borrowed from Patches that I have read and returned are My Sister the Serial Killer, which I really liked. It's definitely like a 4 out of 5 for me. Really into it. I might buy it. I like the vignette style. The other book I borrowed was The Bromance Book Club, which I also really liked. A 4 out of 5 for me. I definitely didn't think I would like it as much as I did, and it definitely makes me want to give second chance romance a second chance, as it were. Especially because the last second chance romance I read, which is a genre of romance that I don't think I necessarily like. I don't know that I dislike it at this point. I thought maybe I did, but I liked The Bromance Book Club so much. I think it's just a genre of romance that I am indifferent towards. But the last second chance romance I read, I fucking hate it. And so did Megan, because it was Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren, a book that we buddy read, and yikes, did not like that book at all. So those are the 2 that I borrowed from Patches. A wild mix of genres, actually. So you have My Sister the Serial Killer, which is sort of a thrillery, it's not really a thriller, but like sort of in that vein, horror, etc. And then a romance, because she has a couple of those. So that was one I didn't think I wanted to buy, so I borrowed. So the 3 books I've read from Megan that I'll be sending back hopefully soon, I'm gonna read probably 1 or 2 more of her books and then send her a box, are The Goldfinch, which doesn't have a cover, but she mostly sent me a box of books for the first time because I wanted to read this book, and then I did the thing, and it took me a very long time, but this book was very good. Like, extremely good. Like, I'm going to buy this book. It's very good. Actually, I think I'm gonna buy all 3 of these books. Actually, I think I'm gonna buy all 5 of the books I've read at some point. I love books, guys. I don't know if you know that. Anyway, I also read Summer of Salt, which Megan owns. I really liked this. Can't stop thinking about it. Very sweet, really lovely. Another lady queer book that I think I'm not gonna ever stop thinking about is This Is How You Lose the Time War, which is my second 5 out of 5 for this year. Really loved this. It was very good. Slightly confusing in terms of like the actual like concreteness of the sci-fi, but I also really liked the stuff that I actually understood of the sci-fi. I was like, oh, this is cool. But the romance, extremely good. Enemies to lovers on different sides of the time war. Love this. I'm deeply obsessed. Okay, so those are the books that I have read that I borrowed from Patches and from Megan. So here are the 2 books that I borrowed from Patches, which are thriller-y books that I have some interest in. The first one is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. This is a book that I think Patches liked okay. She got it from Book of the Month, and it is a dual timeline about a thing that is happening at the Sundown Motel. I don't know that much about it. I know Patches kind of had an issue with the way that the dual timeline was being told, so I'm wondering if I will or if I'll just be like, no, works for me. Uncertain. But it's set in 1982 and 2007. Those are the 2 timelines. I think both of the main characters are women who are either working or staying at the Sundown Motel, and like people start going missing. I think the girl from the 2017 timeline is basically trying to figure out what happened in 82. Fascinating. The next book that I borrowed is The Chain by Adrienne McKinty. This is a book that I saw on Books and Lala's channel, and when I saw that Patches had it and had read it, I think she likes it okay as well. I had to borrow it because the like pitch of this book is so fascinating. Basically, it is about a woman who gets a phone call one day that her daughter has been taken, and that if she doesn't take another child and do a thing, then her daughter will be killed, and she's being called by the mother of a child who was taken before. So basically it's a chain of mothers whose children have been kidnapped, and they have to go and kidnap other children. To what end? Who knows? It's a mystery thriller, my dude. So I'm fascinated by this. I hope that it's good, as I hope every book I read is good. It's not always the case, but you gotta hope. So I had Megan, she sent me a second box of books, some of which are things I asked for, and some of which are things that she just thought I would like. So I had her text me why she decided to send me what books, especially if they were books that I didn't necessarily ask for, but she thought I would like. So I wanted her explanation for why. Let's get into it. The first book that she sent me is Violent Ends, which is a story about a school shooting that is told from 17 different points of views by 17 different authors. I think only know or recognize like one of these authors, but I'm fascinated by this. There's another one that's kind of in this series as well that she sent me that I'm very excited about. So, Megan's explanation for sending me Violent Ends. It's a short story collection / anthology where all the stories are by different authors about the same fictional school shooting. I enjoyed and figured you would too. So here's my thing about fictionalized school shootings. I am very into reading or watching or seeing fictional accounts of school shootings, which I think is why Megan decided that I would probably like this. There are some that I absolutely hate that I don't think are done very well, but there are some that I really like. I haven't read a lot of books about school shootings, but I'm excited to kind of see if I like this or if it is a genre of kind of terror fiction that I only really like in film form, because there are a couple of really great films about fictionalized school shootings that I absolutely love and I'm deeply obsessed with. But a lot of TV school shootings kind of tend to be bad. Like, they tend not to be great. So I'm interested to see if books about school shootings are more TV or more film. Or just their own genre, I suppose. But this is also a collection of short stories, so I'm interested to see kind of how that pans out. I like the idea of a bunch of short stories about the same event from different authors. That sounds very cool. So, excited about this. I think this is gonna be a pick if Patches and I recorded a video where we kind of did like a, here are 5 books I hope to read in March. A 5-book March TBR, if you will. I think I just forgot the words for until I was talking. But she's reading a book about a fictionalized school shooting, which if she likes, I would like to borrow. But then also, if she likes it, this is gonna be a pick, I think, for Backlist Book Club. Because if she likes it, she might like this. And I wanna read it, so there we are. Okay, so the next book that I borrowed from Megan is Feral Youth, which is the same concept as Violent Ends. Like, it's from the same line of books, which I really like. I love these covers, and I like the way that they do the authors on the back. This is basically a book that Megan was like, well, if you like Violent Ends, you'll like this. Same concept. It's about a single event. It's about a group of kids who are in an outdoor education program who are left alone in the wild. It is only 10 authors rather than 17, but she was like, if you like Violent Ends, you'll probably like this. So I'm excited to read Violent Ends, see if I do like that, and then read Feral Youth regardless probably, but fascinated by the idea of doing different authors writing short stories about the same characters, the same event, like, very cool idea. So the next book she sent me was A Little Life, which I actually didn't know that much about until I saw Kat's vlog of her reading it. It's like her sister's favorite book, and so her sister gave it to her, and then she finally was like, I guess I'll read it. And she did a vlog and it was wild. I know nothing about the actual plot of this book. I know that it's like a lot of emotional turmoil and I don't think it ends happily. Anyway, Megan said, I DNF'd this book, but I knew that you wanted it and everyone hypes it. You can keep it. So this is now a book that is no longer technically borrowed, but it came from Megan, so I thought I would talk about it. I'm gonna read it at some point if I need a really good cry, I guess. So the next book Megan sent me is Tell the Wolves I'm Home. This is written by Carol Rifka Burnt and is a book that I don't know anything about. It is I know a little bit about it. So it's a story about a girl whose, I think, uncle dies from AIDS, and it's coming of age. It's like her kind of dealing with her family struggle and like figuring out who her uncle was and about his life. So about the book, Megan said, it's a book about a teenage girl whose best friend, her uncle, dies from AIDS, and she tries to figure out who she is and who her uncle was. Love, love, loved it, and no one talks about it. So I'm very excited to read this. The AIDS epidemic is brutal, to say the least, and the idea of the fact that we'll never know how much culture is lost due to AIDS is heartbreaking at best. And so I'm interested to read a book kind of about that, essentially, or like that kind of theme. So excited, and Megan loved it, so I'll probably love it too. So the next book that Megan sent me, I actually asked for, which is The Bride Test by Helen Wong. So this is a book that is, I think it is set in the same universe as The Kiss Quotient by Helen Wong, but is not a direct sequel. But I wanted to read The Kiss Quotient first, which I bought on Kindle and read, and it was amazing. Absolutely loved it. So I knew that Megan had a physical copy of The Bride Test, so she sent it to me, which she says about as much. She said, sharing the romance vibes, you requested it. That's all I got. So I'm very excited about this. I think I'm gonna read it maybe towards the end of March, maybe April. Okay, the next book she sent me is Zadie Smith's Swing Time. So she said that I requested this, but I have no memory of this. I think I generally just wanted to read a Zadie Smith book, and she was probably like, I have one, and I was like, ooh, I want to read that. So now it is here with me. And it is a book that I truly know nothing about. I think I really just wanted to read a Zadie Smith book, and this is the one she had. It is about two, I think, sisters, maybe just friends, who both want to be dancers, but only one of them is actually talented, and the other, you know, I think maybe ends up being a choreographer. I'm not sure what is happening in this book. She said it's a book that she's meh about, but it's not as much of a dance story as the summary would have you believe. So I think it's probably kind of a coming of age. I think it's set in West Africa and London, it seems. So very excited. Next, she sent me Patricia Highsmith's The Price of Salt, or Carol. Harold, they're lesbians. So that's basically the reason she sent this to me. I have been wanting to read this for a while. I still have not actually watched Carol. I don't know if it's because I want to read the book first, or if it's just because I know that I will become deeply obsessed with it, or maybe I'm afraid that I won't be obsessed enough with it. I'm not sure, but I now have The Price of Salt, which I will hopefully read soon, and then I will finally watch Carol. And then finally, the last book that Megan has sent me is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, which I have talked many times about. This is about a group of kids who are theater kids, and one of them gets murdered. It follows the main character, who I think is bisexual. Hell yeah. As he gets out of jail because I think he was convicted of the murder and stuff. I don't really know that much about this, to be honest. That's kind of the amount that I know. I know that it is similar in themes and tones to The Secret History, which, again, I'm planning on reading before I read this, as per Megan. You know, that's just the way things are. This is what Megan said about it. She said, If We Were Villains, which is A Secret History, but better, actually delivers on female characters being people, and there's more than one in the first place, and on the queer stuff. I love it. I hope you do too. I have a feeling I'm gonna fucking love this. I think a lot of people think that this is super pretentious, and that's like a big criticism of the book, but people think that about The Secret History too, and honestly, it's dark academia. I don't know why you weren't expecting it to be pretentious. Let's see. How many books are gay of the books that I borrowed? The Goldfinch isn't actually gay, but it's kind of gay. It's kind of gay. I have a handful of gay books, and I'm not afraid to talk about them. Anyway, those are all the books that I have currently borrowed from my friends, although I guess A Little Life is just mine. So not really borrowed. I need to put it on my shelves, which I have rearranged again. I actually bought a new shelf to put in the spare room, so I kind of took out a bunch of my nonfiction and my film books and moved them into that room with my comics, and I rearranged these books, and I actually have a bunch of space, which is amazing. And I'm waiting on a book outlet order that I think is actually lost. But once I get that book outlet order, I will kind of reorganize everything again with those in place, which I'm excited about. Fingers crossed.